early projections indicate that Sebastian Kurz, the 31-year-old conservative candidate, will win the chancellorship of Austria, shifting the politics of the country to the right, The Washington Post reports. Per Austrian broadcasters, Kurz and the People's Party have 31.6% of the vote, with the incumbent Social Democrats at 26.9% and the Nationalist Freedom Party right behind with 26%. Why it matters: a win for Kurz and the People's Party would turn Austria far to the right after decades of centrist rulers in power. Favoring the People's and Freedom parties is distrust of migrants and Muslims among many Austrian voters, per the AP. Kurz would also be the youngest world leader, if elected. Go deeper. What to know about the Austrian election? The state of recovery authorities initially estimated it would take 6 months to a year to get Puerto Rico's power grid, which was already in disrepair, up and running. FEMA says 19,000 military and civilian rescue workers are in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Per NBC, the death toll in Puerto Rico has risen to 48, with residents killed both directly by the storm and by exposure to contaminated water in the week since. Per AP, as of Saturday, 64% of the island has access to clean water, NBC reports. The stakes: they need to get a budget done in the Senate this week. No budget, no tax reform. It's that simple. Jonathan Swan hears that the two had a productive conversation on the agenda, and bonded over their joint effort to nominate and confirm conservative judges across the country. Trump was upbeat and brought up a Kim Strassel column in the Wall Street Journal, scalious all the way down, giving the president credit for remaking the federal judiciary. I'm told the two speak behind the scenes more frequently than is leaked. With judges and tax reform as regular topics, they also are said to trade intel such as whip counts. That makes Trump's public and private slaps at McConnell seem even more bizarre, although it fits with the reality that much of what this president says is for show. The two will have lunch at the White House tomorrow. Be smart. This is a truce that both sides need, not a thaw, or a change in how they view each other. You can count on Trump to attack McConnell on Twitter again soon, and keep courting Chuck and Nancy. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said President Trump is not considering leaving the Iran deal yet. Haley: right now you're going to see us stay in the deal. We're in the deal to see how we can make it better, to Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. McMaster: the president is not walking away from the deal yet, to Fox News Sunday's James Rosen. Tillerson: we want to take the agreement as it exists today, and then begin the process of addressing these flaws, to Jake Tapper on State of the Union. Flashback: Trump said Friday, we will see what happens with Iran. We're very unhappy with Iran. I may very well end the Iran deal. More from Tillerson's interview on whether he called Trump a moron. I'm not going to deal with that petty stuff. I'm not going to dignify the question. On the North Korean threat, those diplomatic efforts will continue until the first bomb drops. On the Iran deal, we want to take the agreement as it exists today, and then begin the process of addressing these flaws. Tillerson said both he and Trump are in agreement with Defense Secretary James Mattis that it is the national security interests of the U.S. to stay in the Iran deal. On Trump's leadership, he is the most unique president that we've certainly ever seen in modern history. California Senate Leader Kevin DeLeon will announce his bid for the U.S. Senate today, challenging fellow Democrat and incumbent Dianne Feinstein, who has held the seat since 1992, per the LA Times. The backdrop: Feinstein has faced heated criticism in recent months from liberal critics who have said her measured approach is no longer representative of a state that has become home to the resistance to President Trump and his policies, the LA Times reports. But DeLeon faces a tough fight. Feinstein is a respected veteran of the Democratic Party and wealthy enough to fund her own campaign. NY Times columnist Nick Kristof writes that during his 5-day visit to North Korea, he was struck by the Confucian emphasis on dignity that makes officials particularly resent Trump's personal attacks on Kim. Kristof also detected a bizarre confidence that North Korea can not only survive a nuclear war with the U.S. but also emerge as victor. Ordinary North Koreans were unfamiliar with the name of Otto Warmbier, the American student who died days after being returned to the United States in a vegetative state after his detention in Pyongyang for stealing a poster. But they knew all about President Trump's threats to destroy their country. I left North Korea fearing that we are far too complacent about the risk of a cataclysmic war that could kill millions. I have a sinking feeling in my gut, just as I had on the eve of the Iraq War, that our president may be careening blindly toward war. In that case, the job of journalists is to go out and report, however imperfectly, and try to ring alarm bells in the night. The death toll from the truck bomb in the Somali capital of Mogadishu, currently at 231, keeps rising, the AP reports. More than 275 are injured. Somalia's government has blamed the al-Qaeda-linked al-Shabaab extremist group for the attack. Amid a targeted lobbying effort, Congress weakened the DA's ability to go after drug distributors, even as opioid-related deaths continue to rise, a Washington Post and 60 Minutes investigation finds. According to the Washington Post's Scott Higham and Lenny Bernstein in April 2016, at the height of the deadliest drug epidemic in U.S. history, Congress effectively stripped the Drug Enforcement Administration of its most potent weapon against large drug companies suspected of spilling prescription narcotics onto the nation's streets. A handful of members of Congress, allied with the nation's major drug distributors, prevailed upon the DA and the Justice Department to agree to a more industry-friendly law, undermining efforts to staunch the flow of pain pills. By then, the opioid war had claimed 200,000 lives, more than 3 times the number of U.S. military deaths in the Vietnam War. Why it matters: overdose deaths continue to rise. There is no end in sight.